I appreciate both of y'all. I appreciate y'all having this platform too. I see my brother Salim on here as well. And it's good to be in good company with my brothers that are doing the work and not just doing a bunch of talking. You know what I mean? One thing that I always tell people when it comes to knowledge of self, my journey really started when my consciousness was incarnated in my form. Mm-hmm. Before I actually got supreme mathematics, the alphabet, 120, I always have to pay homage to my parents because they laid the proper foundation for me in order for me to be a critical thinker and receptive to wanting to learn other things about not only my ancestors, but also things about myself. So I always start there in terms of my family dynamics because that's important. My background is early childhood education. And that's teaching like preschool age. And the reason why I got into that is because that's one of the most critical stages in terms of our growth and development. It's our formative years. You know, when you look at the wisdom degree in our 1 to 40s, and it talks about Yaqub being 6 years old, 6 is a critical point in our growth and development because you're at a stage where your brain is about 90% developed at that time. So everything that you've been exposed to from your consciousness being incarnated in that form up to 6 years old, you're really seeing a manifestation of a determined idea. Wow. And I wanted to get involved in that part of children's growth and development, not just ours, but just children, period. And being in that space, I have the opportunity to start them off on a proper trajectory when it comes to brain development. And it's some high science shit, you know what I mean? And usually when you look at early childhood development, you don't see Black men working within that field. I look like a Black unicorn, you know what I'm saying? Right. It's usually middle-aged or young white women that are teaching early childhood development. And I'm sure there's certain things that they teach children at that stage in their growth and development that's important, but usually they lack cultural competence. There's things that they're not exposing all children to, especially our children to, that we only have the capacity to teach. So, and one thing you notice too is the animations are short and they're done deliberately to facilitate conversation, because I deliberately leave out certain parts, and that is for the parent or the guardian or the educator to have that type of conversation with their children. Because a lot of times, generationally, sometimes people may have challenges with striving to have connections with another generation or to start dialogue or conversations around certain topics. So it creates sort of like a safe space to be able, to be able to discuss certain things. So for example, I have one that I did recently called Unspeakable, and it's about the Tulsa race massacre. So it's a book that was written by a woman, and I do a story time about that. The purpose of that is not just to expose children to that history, but also to sit down and have a conversation with them. You know, what do you think about this? Or what do you think this means? What do you think that it doesn't mean? Or how do you feel about this? Or how do you think they felt about this? You know, asking those type of open-ended questions in order to learn from one another. You know, so the animations are done for that purpose, to give people resources and content to build on. You know, even if it's something that you don't agree with. You know, Peace, how you doing? Okay. Yo, so one of the things that I encourage people to do is to not be so anxious to just answer people's questions about stuff, because you never know where somebody's coming from or why they asking you some shit. You know what I mean? Like, I've gotten visits from people who work for the government asking me certain questions about stuff. You know what I mean? And I've learned over time that when we talk about advocating for one common cause, you have to be very clear on where a person is coming from before you are willing to answer their actual question. So
Please support and share with your networks our Atlantis School Renovation Project. Through a recently acquired property here in the city of Niagara Falls, New York, we are doing renovations to establish an early childhood learning center and after-school program for youth in our city. Despite students of color representing more than half the student population in this country, Black men represent less than 2% of that teacher workforce. So as a Black educator, my voice and presence within the lives of children is critical to combating family dysfunction, juvenile delinquency, and creating an inclusive workforce that ensures that all of our nation's students receive a quality, culturally enriched education, which consists of various projects, programs, and initiatives such as this cool animation series. This is not simply my profession, it is also my passion and my purpose. We would really appreciate your support and sharing this initiative with your networks. Thank you.